There is a quiet ache that lives in the spaces between our days, in the moments when the world grows still and we are left alone with ourselves. It is the weight of loneliness pressing against our chest like a stone, whispering that we are forgotten, that we are somehow less because we stand apart from the crowd. But what if I told you that this feeling, this isolation that you fear, is not your enemy, but your greatest teacher? What if the very solitude that frightens you is the sacred ground where emperors and philosophers have built their strongest selves? Marcus Aurelius knew this truth intimately. The most powerful man in the world, ruling over an empire that stretched across continents, yet he understood that true strength was not found in the roar of armies or the applause of crowds. In his private journal, which would become the Meditations, he wrote to himself in the quiet hours, finding in solitude not emptiness, but infinite possibility. He discovered what the Stoics had always known, that loneliness is not the absence of connection, but the presence of opportunity. When we retreat from the noise of the world, when we step away from the constant chatter and the endless need for validation, we enter a space that is entirely our own. This is where the real work begins. Marcus Aurelius understood that solitude strips away the masks we wear, the roles we play, the stories we tell ourselves about who we think we should be. In the stillness, we meet ourselves as we truly are, and this meeting, though sometimes uncomfortable, is where transformation lives. The emperor wrote, "Constantly regard the universe as one living being, having one substance and one soul." In solitude, we begin to feel this connection, not through external relationships, but through the profound relationship we develop with our own inner nature. We learn that we are never truly alone because we carry within us the same rational soul that connects us to all existence. This is not loneliness. This is coming home. Seneca, the great Stoic advisor, spent years in exile, forced into solitude by political circumstances beyond his control. Yet he did not waste away in bitterness or despair. Instead, he used this time to write some of his most profound works, letters that would guide seekers for thousands of years. He wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." In the apparent ending of social connection, he found the beginning of self-mastery. Solitude teaches us the art of self-companionship. When we can no longer rely on others to fill our emptiness, to distract us from our fears, to tell us who we are, we must learn to be enough for ourselves. This is not selfishness. This is strength. This is the cultivation of an inner fortress that no external circumstance can breach. Marcus Aurelius called this place the citadel of the self, and he knew that once we learn to dwell there comfortably, we become truly free. Epictetus, who spent his life teaching others about freedom despite being born into slavery, understood that our greatest prison is not the one built by others, but the one we construct with our own thoughts. He taught that in solitude, we can finally see these mental chains clearly. We can observe our thoughts without judgment, watch our emotions rise and fall like waves, and learn to choose our responses rather than being driven by our reactions. The Stoics knew that loneliness is often the soul's way of calling us back to ourselves. In a world that constantly pulls us outward, toward achievement and acquisition and approval, solitude pulls us inward, toward wisdom and acceptance and authentic power. It asks us to sit with our discomfort, to breathe through our fear, to find peace not in the presence of others, but in the presence of our own steady spirit. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does." In solitude, we learn to turn our attention away from the endless comparison and competition that drains our energy. We stop measuring our worth by external standards and begin to understand our true value, which exists independent of recognition or approval. This is the sacred discipline of solitude, learning to be present with ourselves without needing to escape, to fix, or to change anything. It is in these moments of pure presence that we discover our unshakable core, the part of us that remains constant through all of life's changes. The Stoics called this our governing faculty, our capacity to choose our thoughts and direct our will regardless of external circumstances. When we embrace solitude as a practice rather than endure it as a punishment, we develop what Marcus Aurelius called the view from above. We begin to see our problems in perspective, our fears in proper proportion, our lives as part of a larger cosmic order. We realize that the universe is not something that happens to us, but something we participate in, and our participation is most authentic when we act from our center rather than our surface. The emperor reminded himself daily that everything external is temporary, that the only lasting peace comes from within. In solitude, we practice this truth. We learn to find joy in simple things, the rhythm of our breathing, the warmth of sunlight through a window, the quiet satisfaction of our own company. We discover that happiness is not something we chase, but something we allow. Seneca wrote, "What we have is not important, but what we are." In the silence of solitude, we come to know what we are beneath all the roles and identities we have accumulated. We are consciousness itself, awareness itself, the capacity to observe and choose and respond with wisdom. This realization transforms loneliness from a problem to be solved into a gift to be received. True strength is not the ability to avoid being alone. It is the ability to be alone without being lonely. It is the capacity to find in solitude not emptiness but fullness, not isolation but connection to something greater than ourselves. When we master this art, we become unshakable. We no longer need the world to behave in a certain way for us to be at peace. We carry our peace with us wherever we go. Your loneliness is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a sign that something is calling you deeper, inviting you to discover the strength that has always been there, waiting in the quiet spaces of your soul. Marcus Aurelius found in solitude the wisdom to rule an empire. Seneca found in exile the insights to guide generations. Epictetus found in his limitations the key to ultimate freedom. What will you find in yours? The choice is before you now. Will you fear your solitude, or will you embrace it as the doorway to your greatest self?